Hello and welcome to the show. Well, this week's preliminary clearance auction results from CoreLogic are marking a turning point in buyer and seller sentiment. Clearance rates take a bit of a hit as the virus bites right across the nation. Back with Kevin Brogan and all the details in just one moment. Outsourcing will dramatically improve your productivity and profitability. Shore agents have created a staffing solution to provide great staff who can perform duties in property management, sales, marketing and administration, and at a fraction of the cost, giving you and the team more time to spend on the dollar productive tasks. With rising costs and slowing revenue, the focus must be on value for money. Check it out, shoreagents.com. And joining me once again, Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic. Hello, Kevin. A bit of a sobering report this week.
Oh, yes. Look, I think last week we looked at the results and we could see that there was some indication that the market was reacting to the coronavirus situation. But I think this week's results don't leave us in any doubt that there's been a bit of a change.
Okay, well, let's firstly bring up those preliminary clearance results. Bring them up on the screen now. Well, let's walk through them, Kevin.
Yeah, so Sydney, this time last week, we were reporting a 77% preliminary clearance rate. So you can see that the drop there in Sydney has been quite pronounced to 64.4%. That's probably the biggest single indicator, and it does, in fact, probably coincide with the way that the coronavirus is affecting each of the capital cities. Melbourne at 62.7%. Again, that's a fair bit down on last week. And Brisbane has had a fairly strong run through the first quarter of 2020. But you can see it's back to, where we might term the clearance rate at least to be in a sort of more normal range in the mid 30%. Canberra, again, fairly strong result there, but it's down a little way on where it was last week. And I think overall the weighted average sort of tells the story at 61.3% at a preliminary clearance rate, that there has been a marked impact. And I suspect when we get our final results in, that weighted average will dip below 60%, and that'll be the first time since the middle of 2019.
And we reported on Friday in our report, Kevin, that a number of sellers had actually moved their auctions up, but we also noticed this week that we've had almost a record number of properties withdrawn from the market.
Yeah, look, it's interesting looking at the withdrawals. I was looking at the withdrawals in Melbourne yesterday, and it's true to say that there was almost a doubling in the number of withdrawals since the last week of February. But to put it in perspective, that was 26 out of 890 odd auctions on the day. So, look, I think withdrawals is definitely something we need to watch moving forwards, because I think we're going to see that vendors are going to be looking at postponing their selling decision. But at the moment, probably the bigger influence has been people selling prior. I think we've spoken before about why do people sell prior to auction? And I think if the market is performing very strongly, then a purchaser is more likely to make a bid because prior to auction, because they feel like they might be outbid at auction. But the reverse is true for the vendor. The vendor is unlikely to accept a bid prior to auction unless it's a knockout offer, because they're hoping the auction will do better. And we're in the unique circumstance now that we've actually got both purchasers and vendors looking at the benefits of a sale prior to auction to sort of get it over and done with. So, I think we'll see sold prior and withdrawals moving up as a proportion of total sales.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly keep an eye on those stats as well. Let's take you to the Sydney sub-regions now before we take you into the Topsail out of Sydney. Sub-regions, I guess you'd have to say North Sydney and Hornsby held up reasonably well at 75%.
Oh, look, it certainly did. And I think there might be a story here that some of the sort of more expensive areas, the higher value areas where perhaps the houses that are being offered for auction are more sort of unique or have very unusual characteristics, probably still going to find people committed to their buying decision, whereas perhaps houses that are for sale in areas where there are quite a few similar houses on the market, maybe people are more inclined to postpone. So look, we definitely saw some sub-regions with strong results. North Sydney and Hornsby, Northern Beaches, and also Borkham Hills and Hawkesbury offer much lower volume.
Okay, well, let's have a look at our top sale out of New South Wales, which was an apartment spectacular too. Sold for $4,225,000 at 95 Elizabeth Bay Road. Here's a look inside. This expansive three-bedroom apartment with a beautiful northeast-facing aspect recorded Sydney's top sale under the hammer on the weekend at $4,225,000 and was sold by Jason Boone and Jeff Cox from Richardson and Wrench. In a prized and much sought-after position with the backdrop of a stunning Sydney Harbour panorama and views right across to the Heads, it features a huge living dining room that opens to an entertainer's balcony with double lock-up garage and set in a legendary building featuring harbour pool, marina, jetty and gorgeous gardens in premier position on an exclusive Elizabeth Bay loop. Sold on the weekend by Jason Boone and Jeff Cox for $4,225,000. Okay, Kevin, let's move on to the Melbourne sub-regions now. Anything there that you'd like to point out? I guess nothing in the 70% range.
No, that's right. But I mean, we've got a remarkable consistency across the regions. I mean, the Northwest, I suppose, up at 67.1%, and the West at 68.1%. Still, the volumes are still pretty high because, of course, all of these auctions were listed, maybe 28 days ago or more, and the decision probably a little way before that, before coronavirus was front of mind. So still some quite busy activity, but obviously those clearance rates and buyer participation down.
Yeah, well, certainly the top sale out of Victoria came out of Albert Park, a wonderful area, 92 Page Street. This one sold for $9 million under the hammer, and in fact was the top sale in the country. Greg Hocking Holsworth selling this one, Warwick and Simon. We're going to have a look inside right now, and this is the video that they used during the marketing period.
Iconic properties rarely come to the market, and even more particularly in Albert Park. They're few and far between and tightly held for good reason. Well, this facade is iconic and recognisable instantly. It's set on 600 square metres of land and it's prime Albert Park living. We're delighted to present to you 92 Page Street, Albert Park.
Okay, and just before we leave you, we've got time to have a look at our Queensland sale, and you did highlight at the opening there, Kevin, that the Brisbane result at 34% is a little bit down, or around about probably where we'd expect it to run. But the property top sale out of Queensland came out of the Gold Coast in Coolangatta. This one was a potential development site, Kevin, $2 million.
Oh, the Coolangatta property?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe it was, yes.
Yeah. Let's have a look. We've got a video presentation for you on this one. And with interest rates at an all-time low, investing in 4 Hague Street, Coolangatta was a very smart move for the buyer on Saturday, recording the Topsail in Queensland on the weekend. Situated on one block of 673 square metres, it's within 100 metres of the famous Kirra Beach, 50 metres to restaurants and shops, and minutes from Gold Coast International Airport. All 8 apartments, 6 by 2 bed and 2 by 3 bed, have secure leases in place, generating just over $161,000 a year. In a multi-level high-rise precinct with endless development potential, the property was marketed and sold by Russell Siegel from Richardson and Wrench for $2 million. Okay, as we said, potential development site there. Kevin, let's wrap it up. We're going to come back on Friday with the final results, but as Kevin has foreshadowed, they'll likely drop to under 60%. Quickly running through the preliminary results: Sydney 64.4%, Melbourne 62.7%, Brisbane 34.9%, Adelaide 54.5%, Perth 23.5%, Tasmania 33.3%, and Canberra 65.1%. Kevin, just before we go, do you have a feeling for the auction numbers for this coming week?
Well, I mean, the numbers are actually up again because of, as I say, the fact that the listings were probably made and initiated a long time before coronavirus had really attained the prominence that it does now. So I think this weekend, again, it seems likely that we're going to see an increase in withdrawals and deals sold prior. So anybody who has the financial well-being to complete a deal is probably going to want to do it quickly. Any vendor who's found a purchaser in that situation probably also looking to deal with it quickly. But the uncertainty that's been introduced to the market and perhaps a dent in the confidence of purchasers who need to be assured of their employment and income generating capacity is going to result in lower clearance rates, I would expect.
Well, Kevin Brogan will join us again on Friday. Stick around for that. Watch out for an auction update from CoreLogic, and we bring you the most accurate, up-to-date advice on what's happening with the auction scene right around the country. And if you are concerned, if you're operating as we go into a lockdown situation in most parts of the country, just how difficult is it going to be to operate? We're streaming a number of shows this week that will look at operating businesses in the coronavirus environment, and that'll be for real estate agencies, for real estate brokers, finance brokers, I guess anyone in industry, and that'll be across our portals, Real Estate Talk and Real Estate Uncut, so watch out for those. Kevin Brogan, troubling times, but thank you for joining us, my friend. I know you're very, very busy, and I look forward to catching up with you on Friday. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.